Aloha.
Just one moment.
Oh, okay.
I'm still doing some behind the scenes stuff, you could say, and it's live. And I'm coming back to you. Aloha!
Aloha.
¿Cómo estás?
Pax vobiscum.
Remind me of what Pax vobiscum means.
Pax vobiscum is Latin. It means peace be with you.
Assalamu alaikum.
And the traditional response is et cum spiritu tuo.
Well, it's interesting that espiritu is in Latin because I am knowing that word as a Spanish word.
There are some similarities between Latin and Spanish.
Pretty incredible. Let me just do a dunk real quick. All right, so I'd like to introduce you all to my friend Tim. He's all the way in Hawaii. We have a very special discussion planned for you today. I would like to remind you that we cannot see the comments in YouTube, but we are live streaming now through Zoom. And you're welcome to leave comments and chat amongst yourself. Moderators, you're welcome to manage the crowd as you need to. Much love to everyone, and let us begin.
Let us begin. Trina, you and I were talking about relationships to a belief system the other day, remember?
Yes, sir.
And we were talking about and we were talking about the three elements: dogma, faith, and religion.
Yes.
And you had some questions for me about dogma.
Yes. I'd like to almost pretend as if we have not had that discussion because I cannot remember every single reply, and B, for also the crowd here. So if you could tell us first what your definition or coming to understanding of what the word dogma means.
All right, let's take all three of those words one at a time.
Got it.
All right, the first one is dogma. What do you think dogma means? Help me out with this.
Oh man, if I'm honest, I have like no understanding of what this word means aside from honestly, like you could say a Kevin Smith movie, and I'm not even sure if that's his movie, but I do know that we could say Jay is in that movie. But dogma, I like to take the typical answer and just say I do not know instead of trying to make a fool of myself and guessing.
Okay, well, one definition has dogma as a principle or set of principles set down by an authority that is incontrovertibly true. Now, let's keep it.
What does incontrovertibly true mean? Does that mean like you can't prove it wrong? Like you can't say that that's not true?
It is believed to be true, beyond a doubt.
One more time, please.
Okay. It's a principle or set of principles set down by an authority that is believed to be true.
Okay.
Okay. And we're not just talking about religion here. We can talk about politics, we can talk about science, or we can talk about religion.
So dogma can be applied to all of those classifications.
Absolutely. You know, in Greek, it's based upon a Greek word, and the literal Greek phrase is something that seems to be true.
Cool.
Okay. What's our second word here?
Can you give an example, by any chance, of some type of dogma applied to any party? Maybe from science point of view, like where can dogma be seen as that? Is that like maybe when we thought that certain stuff the brain, or like is there an example? Maybe?
All right, during the Renaissance, well, not so much the Renaissance, the Middle Ages, people believed the world was flat. And they were quite adamant about some people believing that the world was flat.
That's something happening right now, Tim.
Yeah, what can I say? And this is where we get into something called a German philosopher's three elements of truth, or three stages of truth. His name was Arthur Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer says that there are three stages to the truth. First, an idea is ridiculed or rejected. Second, It's opposed, sometimes very violently. And third, it's accepted as self-evident.
Would self-evident mean like it speaks for itself?
Exactly. So that's dogma as far as how to disprove it. Now, faith, we hear a lot of talk about faith nowadays, as opposed to religion. Faith is simply a trust or confidence in someone or something.
Yes.
Okay, that's all it is.
So I can have faith in a friend or faith in, like, a member of my community, stuff like that.
I have faith in the fact that my car is going to start this morning.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I have faith that my mortgage is going to come through on the first of the month. Because I have faith in my mortgage company that they will not forget to send me that notice. All right. Now let's talk about the third one. What's that? Religion.
Religion, some type of organization based on a faith?
Close, very close. It's a belief in or a worship of a superior power.
Worship of a superior power. I love that. So by that definition of religion, some people could make tobacco their religion, or they could make eating food their religion, right? Because they have so much admiration and like find glory to heavens kind of thing for this. Or
for some people in, say, Hollywood, their celebrity status is their religion. They are obsessed with it. Strike that.
Or just the status.
Strike that. They're not obsessed. They're possessed.
By the self.
Exactly. I mean, they are literally have a belief in their selves and nothing else. They are obsessed with themselves.
Dude, when I was little, this girl in St. Augustine, she showed me a Satanist Bible, and she explained to me that inside the Satanist Bible, all it was for her was to worship herself and to put herself first before everything else.
You know, a lot of atheists may also believe that same way, and that's where we get into kind of a conflict between what's an atheist and what's an agnostic.
I know.
All right, help me out with this.
An agnostic is someone who doesn't necessarily have a religion, but they believe that there's something, whereas an atheist thinks that there's absolutely nothing.
Pretty much. An atheist...
Do share your extra details, please, if you have extras.
Well, no, that's pretty much on spot on, because an atheist says, I will not believe. The agnostic says, prove it.
Cool.
Prove it.
Yes,
a lot of our founding fathers, the very first presidents of the United States, they weren't a member of any organized religion. They were agnostic.
Not even Gnosis? Like Gnosis at that time wouldn't even count as a religion?
I'm sorry?
Gnosis, like Gnosis, Gnosis? Like that wouldn't count as an organized religion of that time, or the Freemasonry, or those founding organizations?
The Gnostics?
Mm-hmm. Like, would that not count as like almost like a type of religion, because like they're worshiping those principles that they have created from the organization or something?
Pretty much.
And then what would you define Gnosis as? Is that math, or?
Is it math?
Yeah, or like how would it be explained of what Gnosis is? Because from my understanding, that's what the G in the Freemason symbol represents. I mean, there's a lot of theories that it also represents like the number of the equator and different theories like this. But
right. I've met some Freemasons in my life. I'm not a Freemason, but I've met some. And it all depends on what Freemason you ask. Some believe it stands for God. Some people.
But the question is, what is Gnosis? What is Gnosis, dude? What is Gnosis? What does that mean?
All right. What does that mean to you?
I just told you math. I don't have any other understanding of it, like Fibonacci or spiral dynamics, the expression of that. But
all right, that could be one possible explanation. Definitely. There are other people in the world that may have a how can I say this? Relationship to themselves and their own self principles in another way. But unfortunately, we misinterpret those things.
Apologize about that. Someone must be trying to call me and wish me a happy birthday or something.
Oh, very nice.
Decline.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm
I
like,
said-
the call is important. Can they not see what we're doing? Hello.
There you go. Okay.
Please, what was your definition of Gnosis? I'm sorry for my interruption.
I'm sorry, say that again.
What was your definition of Gnosis? And I'm sorry for my interruption.
No, no problem. I apologize for mine. I don't think I really have a definition of Gnosis per se. I look at a person's belief system in relationship to those three elements. Dogma, faith, religion. How do they relate to each other? How don't they relate to each other? And what are the outside influences on those three elements? Case in point, I live in the Pacific Ocean. Well, not in the ocean. I'm on an island in the ocean, on the ocean. But here in the Pacific, there are a group of people in Micronesia that have been called cargo cults. Are you familiar with them?
No.
Okay. There are a group of islanders in Micronesia whose basic principles or practices parallel Christianity quite a bit. Cargo cults got started at the end of World War II or during World War II, when these isolated people living on these very remote islands suddenly, out of nowhere, started seeing these giant silver birds come from the sky. And out of these silver birds came these very tall white guys. And they brought gifts, things like meat in a can. They brought tobacco, they brought alcohol, and they said, hey, this is really cool. These people must be gods. Well, you know, what did Arthur C. Clarke say?
What did he say?
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. These people on these remote islands looked at these tall white guys coming down in these giant silver birds, and they thought they were gods. And to this day, they worship. They have mock-ups of these giant silver birds. We call them airplanes. They have costumes that are very similar to the costumes that the soldiers and sailors and Marines wore during the war. And they conduct rituals, hoping that these giant silver birds will someday return.
And bring them tobacco.
And bring them tobacco and alcohol and the stuff we call spam.
Cool.
But that is their level of understanding. And the worship ceremonies are quite similar to what people in the Christian church do.
Like bowing down, kissing the earth, or dancing.
They have rituals, they have songs, they have dances. And they are called cargo cults.
So that exists to this day still?
Absolutely.
Like reenactment almost?
Yes. Look it up. Look up cargo cults. You can Google it.
Okay.
It's actually quite fascinating. But there again, you know, we get back to Arthur C. Clarke. You know, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
I can see that. I mean, I can see how technology can be basically used as black magic, you know, like spying on people, gathering their information, weaponizing it against them, putting rays out at people, making them behave in certain ways, as we know DARPA can do, you know, things like that.
Well, just imagine for a moment, if you were to take a jet airplane, okay, and put it in the middle of 14th century Italy or Spain. How would you describe it?
It's an alien. Kill it.
Or the government at that time is probably going to go, this is really cool.
True.
Take it apart. Tell us how it works. Oh, and we want you to build one just like it.
I bet they did that the same thing with discovering alien spacecrafts.
Do you think?
For sure. Predictive programming I've seen on multiple television shows, and the CIA recently released like a bunch of different specified documents, you know.
Well, you know, sometimes government agencies actually engage in disinformation campaigns based upon the popularity.
Counterintelligence. I'm very aware, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, it's also called psyops, psychological operations.
To mess with people's minds, like psychological warfare, almost, but psyops. Like
that's exactly what it is.
Yes.
There is some belief in the scientific community. Let's just take one of our favorites, Roswell.
That's who I was thinking of when we were talking about taking apart a spacecraft and, you know, using the information and technology for ourselves. It's a very special aircraft. I can't remember the name of it, but that was the place that came to mind. I couldn't remember it, so thank you for speaking it.
All right. What if I told you that Roswell didn't have anything to do with aliens?
I would believe that it was like a staged gimmick or like a, hey, look over here kind of thing.
There is a book written by Annie Jacobson called Surprise, Kill, Vanish. That is the model of the former OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, the forerunner of the CIA.
Yeah.
There is a belief in the intelligence community that Roswell was staged.
Hey, Tim, what do you think about that other guy?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, this is totally off topic. I was going to say, what do you think about that other guy, Wernher von Braun, and how he mentions the scripture of the dome, like mentioned on his grave, like this space guy talks about the firmaments, like how we're basically under a dome. Like, what's your thought on Wernher von Braun putting that on his gravestone? Or are you familiar with it?
Well, let me just finish up with Roswell. The evidence seems to indicate that it was a psychological warfare exercised by the former Soviet Union. Essentially what happened is, according to some intelligence sources, is that the former Soviet Union took some developmentally disabled children, surgically altered them, put them in a...
Like Mandela type thing? Like stitching them together like twins, like kind of like that?
Similar. They essentially surgically, for lack of a better word, we'll call it mutilated them into looking like aliens.
Whoa.
It was a psychological warfare experiment. Now, how did they get these spacecraft to crash in the middle of the desert? It was actually quite easy. You could actually do it from another aircraft. There were a lot of Soviet spies, counterintelligence agents in the country at the time, so that would have been relatively easy.
This is striking a thought that then, do you think that maybe this was done on purpose in a sense to kind of introduce people to the idea that there are intergalactic species, and then kind of desensitizing and creating like fascination and worship and admiration of like...
I don't know. What do you think? Could possibly be.
It would be a good way to introduce us, like as a planet, like, oh, let's do this crash site and do crop circles and spark imagination and curiosity, and I don't know.
Or it could be a diversion.
Diversion.
No, diversion from what your real ambition is, like a feint.
Wow. You mean like to prepare us that they know that for sure that there's these intergalactic communities that like we should just mentally be prepared for, that they might come down at any time, like that?
Well, it could be because of the fact that we were so busy preoccupied with looking for little green men that we
well,
wouldn't.
What about the other way? I have heard this rumor that they were going to use like holographic type projections, just like they did at like, you know, music awards and stuff like that of deceased people, that they something like that involving like you know, intergalactic species, or we could say aliens, you know. And then they would trick us, and then we would have the nervous system responsive, oh my God, there's aliens, but it was just a holographic expression of like, you know, a technology interface, as you were saying, basically as magic.
Well, not only magic, but it could be a diversion to what other programs are under development. The CIA openly admits now, for example, that yeah, we capitalized on this whole interest in flying saucers so we could develop stealth technology. So while everybody was looking for little green men, we were busy developing stealth technology. Yeah.
What would be classified as stealth technology? That just means going really fast, or like?
Could be going fast. Actually, it means, for lack of a better word, in a layman's term, we'll call it invisibility, or something as close to invisible as possible.
Like, what kind of, like, my ego's upset because that feels like magic within itself. You're using the word stealth, but it means invisible. You know what I mean?
Or nearly invisible, yeah. And this has been the goal of governments, military-industrial complexes for years. How do we make ourselves less noticeable?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this is nothing new. This is nothing new at all. But a lot of people can't seem to wrap their head around that. I don't know why, but be that.
Cognitive dissonance comes to mind, you know, like a willful ignorance, not wanting to know, maybe because it counterattacks other belief systems, which reminds me of our initial opening up discussion. I would like us to also cover, before we get too far apart, about, again, like how these belief systems modify our behavior, especially in organized groups. Like if 3 people believe in this one religion, or if 3 different people believe this one dogma or lie about our health, or different information like that.
Okay, then you're looking at probably the role, if any, these belief systems, your dogma, your faith, your religion, play into the development of the human race.
So, like, if people,
for example, the Spanish believed in the conquest of the New World so they could spread the gospel, so they could spread their religion. All right. They also managed to wipe out a few million people in the process.
Yeah. I'm always reminded of a story how they killed the first person that said, a Christian, they killed the person that said that the earth was round.
That what now?
They burned them. They burned the first guy that said the planet was round.
Yes.
But something else that you made me think of was like a religion or a dogma or a faith in living forever, like putting your brain into a hyperspace, or like, you know, a hive mind connecting all Neuralink, something like that, that wanting to live forever. Like that could be considered one of those like belief systems, that I never want to die, or there is nothing on the other side, like those subliminal behavioral systems that might, or belief systems that can make people behave in altered ways.
Okay, well then we're talking about what's the role, if any, these belief systems play into our technological advancement in fields like AI, space exploration,
there's no
robotics.
God.
How about medicine?
You're triggering many thoughts. Like my brain would, like, if people don't believe there's a God, they're going to worship AI, artificial intelligence, and then there's going to be less planting of seeds, less oxygen for humanity, because we put all of our attention in, you know, building these like metal machine things, right? Or like artificial intelligent bees, which already exists and is patented by companies like Walmart, instead of like, again, like focusing on like breeding. Like I feel like that belief system creates ruining the ecological system, because you could say we're brainwashed into worshiping a creation of ourselves, like stuff like that, instead of like what's natural.
Well, again, you know, there's the argument of, aren't we playing God if we continue to advance our technology? And my response has always been, we're playing God right now. Do you know?
Oh, yes, dude. I'm not sure if it's Alex Collier or who's that guy that did Behold a Pale Horse? That one they killed. They killed him on Guy Fawkes Day. I can't remember his name. But from my understanding, these people, they shared this teaching that the Luciferian philosophy is that they want to be God, they worship knowledge, and that's why they think God was a punishing God because God deprived them of knowledge. And then like they think that if they can have all of the watching everyone through their computers and reading everyone's iridology and nervous system response, that they can play God because they can work through power of suggestion or sex or fear and like manipulate people's behavior through these electromagnetic devices. Like that's my understanding of like the Luciferian agenda, that they worship the apple. That's why it's a bite of the apple. It's like a worshiping of knowledge instead of like creation itself.
Well, you can argue that there should be a balance between the two. And there are some people that would argue that with any type of technological development, we run the risk of, quote, playing God, unquote. But let me ask you a question. Do you know any diabetics?
I did when I was little, and I knew a guy who cured his type 2 diabetes from working with Combocito, but aside from that, I can't think of anybody who is currently working with insulin. Actually, I think of one person, a friend of mine, his name starts with a D, but he lives in another state, and I never met him in person. But other than that, no, I don't really know anyone personally who's having insulin.
But you know all people who use insulin.
Yes.
All right, fine. What happens if they don't take their insulin? They go into they may go into some type of medical emergency.
Yeah.
But they don't take insulin. All right. Isn't that playing God? All right, let me ask you another question, okay? How about heart transplants?
Okay, this is why Bob Marley died. He refused to accept our technology to cure himself. Yes? Like he believed in putting God in God's will and things like that. And there's conspiracy theories that electromagnetic waves were directed at him to cause him to have dis-ease, like.
Well, whenever we go in for, say, an organ transplant, or we go in for major surgery, all right, there are some belief systems that don't accept blood transfusions. There are some belief systems who won't even accept major surgeries.
Well, some are opposite. They believe that those are creation of God and a grace of God or the mercy of God.
Absolutely. But there again, this is one of the reasons why I don't think we're ever going to have full disclosure for any type of extraterrestrial presence. I don't view disclosure as an event. I view it more as a process, because there are some people perhaps listening to this conversation we're having right now that sincerely believe that extraterrestrials are from the depths of hell. And I can guarantee you, those type of people, regardless whether they're listening or not, as soon as that spaceship landed on the White House lawn or in front of Buckingham Palace or wherever, the first time that extraterrestrial opened that hatch and got off that spacecraft, it wouldn't make it down halfway before he would be so full of lead from being shot. It wouldn't even be funny.
Wait. Why lead? Our body produces lead when we're scared?
No, he would be shot.
Oh. The alien would be shot?
Yes.
Okay. Now I get it. I was thinking about the human beings soaked in lead. Yeah. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the first time that extraterrestrial spaceship landed, that hatch opened and that little ET fellow fell, whatever. Tried to make it down the ramp, wouldn't make it very far.
In my study of like metaphysics, I have grown to understand that basically each level of being, or extraterrestrial or not from this planet, or angel, like that there's different frequencies and different levels of light, you could say, operating. Like there's altruistic ones, like people or souls that are constantly being better and that are in the interest of bettering all of mankind. And then there are those who like worship and feed off of fear or feed off of control and things like that, and that in the spiritual community, a lot of people don't really see them as demons or jinn as religions do. However, I have found fascination in reading from, scriptures, multiple different religious scriptures that mention these jinn, Jinn, or demonic forces and Satan, and casting out Revelations 9:11, Abaddon, all these different names.
Well, for those who follow the prophet,
Which one?
Muhammad.
Or the book, The Prophet. Okay.
All right. For those who prophet,
He's called the prophet. Muhammad from the Quran is officially the prophet.
In Islam. All right.
Yes.
All right. The jinn could be messengers from either God or the underworld. However, followers of the prophet are not supposed to have any communication or contact with the jinn because they could be deceptive.
It also mentions in one of the last surahs at the back of the book that, like, even through a man, that a jinn can operate through the mouth of a man.
Exactly. There's a phrase in the Christian Bible that says even the devil can come as an angel of light.
Lucifer.
Yes. So one must be very careful.
Wow. This triggers.
I'll give you a minute to absorb all that.
Say that one more time.
I said I'll give you a minute to absorb all that.
Yeah. I mean, like, just from hearing all these things, it kind of ignites like other different questions. Like, I am kind of still circling in my, how do different belief systems, dogmas, especially people that are believing lies, like the lie of illusion, the lie of separation, lies of betrayal, like all these different things, right, that are classified of jinn, you could say, as well. And how that like plays, like what you're saying, like into the development of humanity. Like right now, everyone has a choice to like focus their attention on their artificial intelligence and make like AI their religion, right? And put religion. I mean, there's so many different breakdowns of that word that I've come to know, and I'd love to hear more and from that spiritual aspect of it. But again, like, how is this playing out in our humanity? And due to people believing these illusions that have basically been uploaded into their brain or suggested to them and have not been, thought through, like their system too hasn't challenged the thought and processed it. And then, again, like that causes a little bit of irritation because I feel like in this now, like, and only now that we have the power to kind of make really drastic changes by doing something we normally wouldn't do. Like maybe, I can't really think of something. I wanted to say plant an apple tree, but they've modified the genetics of so many of our foods that like no seed is the same as it was. Like we collected all the seeds and like only put it out this patented seed from this company, which basically created Agent Orange and what's that other one? I'm forgetting the other one. Don't tell me. But they Bayer released an apology letter, drug or whatever, to the Holocaust. I can't remember the drug. But they basically have a big "I'm sorry" thing on their thing, like, "Oh, we're sorry we did this to the Jewish community." I can't remember. You know what drug that was? It's not Agent Orange. It's another one.
A lot of companies that are around today were quite instrumental during the war, and it's kind of like the unspoken history that no one wants to talk about.
Kind of like Time Magazine funding the machine that counted the bodies, like stuff like that. Like I take it so personal. I don't even know why. I wasn't even like really around in that time period, but just something just like irks me that like we just all watched this stuff go down and like nobody countered these thoughts and we allowed ourselves to like believe certain things. Kind of like when JFK was like, taken out, kind of thing, that no one like really looks any further than that, or Marilyn Monroe, or like all these like very specific things, you know what I mean? Well, Diana, I mean,
yeah, let's take a step back, for example. And like I said, there are a lot of companies around today. Perhaps some of the people listening to this broadcast probably patronize those companies without them realizing what their dirty, dark secrets are. What does
patronize mean? Does patronize mean support or not support?
It's support.
So they support the companies without knowing the habit that they've done.
Yes. For example, did you ever hear of a little company called Hugo Boss?
I know the company. Aren't they like a tuxedo company or something?
It's a men's clothing line. Do you know how they got their start?
Mm-mm.
They made and designed the uniforms for the SS.
Can you say that one more time?
They made and designed the uniforms for the SS.
And
It's
SS
so
stands for
awful. That was Hitler's protection service. The guys dressed in black
okay.
with the skull
Hey,
cap.
I have to say this. I just remember, like, I got the download and the memory of what the drug was. It was called Zyklon B. That was the drug of the other guys. Sorry, I was obsessing in the back of my mind, like, what is that drug from Bear?
Well, the funny thing is, there's actually two Zyklons. It was actually originally used as a pesticide. All right, hold
like,
on a second. All right, the original inventor of Zyklon, of the gas Zyklon that was used as an industrial pesticide, was Jewish.
what?
Hold on a second.
How evil is that?
Zyklon B.
Their own
Give me a
thing.
minute here. Give me a minute here. Zyklon B is actually the same as the original Zyklon, except it has no odor.
Wow.
That was developed by a fellow who later became the Surgeon General of the Third Reich. Did the original inventor of Zyklon ever foresee his invention killing his fellow human beings? No.
Dude, have you ever looked up the definition of what a Muslim is?
No, tell me.
In the Quran, I read that a Muslim is someone who obeys the word of God.
Okay.
Like that's simple. That like basically God comes to you in your heart, gives you a message, and you listen. That you bow down, you put your head down, you worship, or that is your religion. You rely on that. You listen to that. Obey. The word is Shema. I think the word is Shema, which is like Hebrew for I think listen or obey. Like.
All right. What is a Christian? One who believes that Jesus is God.
A Christian.
What does Christ mean? Christ means Savior.
Really, I also understood Christian is like, so excuse me if this is absolutely wrong, but my way of understanding the Christianity was like to be like him, like that we're given these stories to be so forgiving, to be merciful, humble, to wash people's feet, to not look down on people, to not throw stones, to not charge people extra money because they borrowed money from us. Like supposedly he was an example of like being a good person, and that like it was shown to us how to behave, and how to think, and what his heart was like. And then, like as a Christian, like making yourself more like him, like Jesus, make my feet your feet, make my hands your hands, make my mind your mind. Instead of being hatred, jealousy, separation, like all that stuff, dude.
Well, that's part of the belief system. Everybody likes to use that expression. Well, we shouldn't charge interest on the money we loan, but that's actually based upon an old Hasidic tradition. If you want to go strictly,
what's Hasidic? I've heard of Hegelian.
The old Jewish tradition. Okay.
Oh, cool.
Okay. If you want to go strictly by that, then we aren't supposed to get tattoos or wear two different types of cloth at once.
Dude, the cloth stuff, like when you get into the scriptures, that is so cool. Like basically it talks about like if you had a garment from Peter or like like a prophet, that like it was like God kind of thing, that like you had that energy with you. So it's like the same thing if you have like a scripture with you, right? That's like this lighthouse or something like that that's emanating this energy. I always love that. And they also I got excited because I started to think they talk about being cloaked in righteousness, or you're cloaked in peace, that you're dressed in that, like you're wearing that holiness, if you will.
Yes, because that was a reinforcement of their dogma, if you will, as far as their belief system is concerned. All right, to distinguish us from the others, we have to dress a certain way. We have to act a certain way.
I've
we
heard
have to believe a certain way.
I've had people tell me that there's theories that these churches were like basically infiltrated by other societies to kind of like deviate or introduce like pagan like traditions kind of thing, like how like Christmas or certain things like this that you could say as Americans were kind of brainwashed into worshiping these holy days, when there's like different things. I know that also like something else that came to mind is like the gyroscopic procession and how like the Hoover Dam and things like that kind of like map things like that. But
yeah, some of the early Christian calendars paralleled the pagan calendar, and that was because they wanted what? Converts from the pagan belief systems into the Christian belief system. So what's the best way to do that? All right, you make your calendar as similar as possible to the pagan calendar. All right. Instead of the gods, we have saints. Okay. And things like that. We don't have the Mother Earth God. We have what? The Virgin Mary. See where I'm going with this?
I mean, the Zeitgeist movie like breaks down a lot of that stuff, from my understanding.
And that's, that doesn't, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. All right. All I'm saying is that's what they did. It's not my place to make a value judgment about other people's faith. They can believe whatever they want or not believe. If I'm pretty much a libertarian as far as that's concerned. I mean, you can believe or not believe any way you want. I have two rules. Don't take people's stuff and don't hurt people. It's that simple.
Well, that's basically what religion is, right? Like trespassing or transgression, all that means is like taking what's not yours, like what's not intended for you kind of thing, like not your path.
Yeah. And all religions, all faiths, pretty much all dogmas are rooted in that. But how well do we adhere to that as a person? Is that the religions or the faith's problem, or is it our problem as human beings?
Well, you're igniting me, because what about the flip side, like the epigenetic memory, like how our ancestors and things like that, how we behaved in certain ways or certain dogmas or things like that as like a generation, like we've been reenacting these same behaviors. The way it was talked to me is like, imagine how many people in your family made love before you existed, and then feeling that in the stone of your bones, like really feeling in your body, like how far back we really go and how much we express. And then like those memories that live on with us, whether it's like, killing certain religions or, people don't agree with us, or like all those shadow aspects. But there's also positive aspects too, right? Of like different cultures, or you could say like different tribes coming into agreement, like washing each other's feet or feeding each other, eating amongst each other, like things like that. And then like you could say the reinforcement, like doing that multiple times in that cellular memory that lives in the body of either A, getting along, or B, the other way, like separation and fighting.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. So do you have any other questions, or do you want to talk about, well, this is kind of curious.
Well, like if I could, and if you would grant me permission, or if you're capable, or I'm not sure how to really talk about that, like it feels like you have certain neural pathways in your brain that are ways that I don't really think. So if you could somehow go down the rabbit hole of your belief systems on technology and how like these belief systems kind of express themselves, and like where you think the future is going, and then like most of all, my inner child or my ego, or the me or the self, there's something in me provoking to ask, like, what can we do about it? What can be done? And what are some like conscious changes we can make in our everyday lives, or thoughts we can ask ourselves, or things like that, things that can be provoked to do something differently today, that our future self will like look back and say, thank you, humanity, for these like few people who did this, like, or whatever, whether it's stopping technology or enhancing technology, or again, finding that fine line between the two, dude. I mean, I don't really know what to do. From my understanding right now, we can't stop what we've created. No matter what we created, it can only change form. And we've already created like these quantum computers that like basically carry on the studies of Jose Delgado, which is like, manipulating brain waves to create us to do certain behaviors from basically electromagnetic waves or lights, Lucifer rays. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it, basically, like the patents on television and stuff like that. But again, like please share some of your thoughts on like how these play into society and what we can do about it, kind of thing.
The problem with the future is eventually it turns into the present.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, where is technology going? I don't know. I would hope it would continue. And technology is a double-edged sword, don't you think?
What is technology by definition? Does that mean just computers, or like? Or like how
It can include the total development of every invention. I mean, everybody badmouths technology. All right, well, what do you want to do? Go back to living the way we did 100 years ago or 150 years ago? Personally, I don't want to go to the bathroom outside. You know what I'm saying?
I don't mind it.
You know, I like bathing more than once a month, as people did. You know, I like indoor plumbing, is what I'm saying. I like the fact that, yes, I live in the tropics, and sometimes in the summer it gets really warm. And yes, even in Hawaii, I have to turn on my air conditioning. I like that. That's okay. You know, where do you draw the line on technology? That has to be an individual choice.
Well, then what's your thoughts about biodigital convergence and all these things happening, like people putting computer interfaces into their bodies?
If they want to do that, I'm not going to stop them. It's their body, it's their choice. All right. Now, personally, would I do it? No. Now, am I in favor of the government doing it to people? No. No.
This
But if
inspires.
someone wants to voluntarily do it, fine, go for it. That is your choice. You're an adult. Take some responsibility for your actions.
The ability to.
You know, I'm not saying it's easy. It's, you know, golly, it's hard sometimes. It's difficult. But you can't rely on the government, excuse me, to tell you what to do.
Hey, so you understand Latin. I wanted to say you speak Latin, but that's like an assumption. Like, are you aware of what the word government itself broken down?
No, what is it? Share with me.
There's governmente. So govern, right? Controlling, watching over. Mente is mind. So some could interpret it as like a type of mind control or organization to do that. And then another thing that comes to mind is like the government came out and said, we're sorry because they gave children like poisoned cereal, like they worked with like a certain company who like poisoned these cereals. And then they came out and said, we're sorry, America. We're so sorry for these experiments that we were doing. I forgot which president did the I'm sorry about the cereal, but there was like a video of the person like speaking very just truthfully, I guess, of saying like my fellow Americans type thing, we're very sorry. And yeah. And that's just one of many different things, you know?
That's happened throughout our history. And when I say our history, I don't just mean America's history, throughout the history of the world.
Yes. Before you said that, I was just thinking about different scientists who would experiment on their own children, like their own daughters, to do like certain human experiments, you know?
Oh, yeah. You know, and everybody gets bent out of shape about genetics. But if you stop and think about it, we practice our own form of genetics when we select a life mate.
Yeah.
We have standards. If you stop and think about it, you know.
Well, what about how birth control and things like that change the type of partner you're attracted to? It changes your pheromones, like, and things like that, and like the smells and stuff.
All right, but there again, if you choose to take birth control or not, you know, that's your choice.
And then, yeah, but like people aren't thinking about how those belief systems play out, kind of like pornography and stuff like that, right? Like if the men are wasting all their jing, like there's no energy to hunt down the woman kind of thing, you know, because the energy is spent and it can't be directed towards a female, and the male doesn't like produce that electromagnetic wave to kind of make a female be drawn to that. And like the other way too, right? If a woman is like shifting her sexual energy directed towards like, you say a tantra way, right? If she's focused on security or financial, you know, like I think that's called sex magic or something like that when people are doing that kind of practice. But like again, like those belief systems too and how they're modifying our complete humanity, you know, because energy is being spent in ways that isn't really in a mindful way. And maybe it's a purpose, you know, the whole eugenics type thing to kind of stop mass populations.
Perhaps. I mean, you know, we could say that based upon our belief systems dictate our own genetics as far as, or our own eugenics. we mate with, who we don't mate with. For example, 70, 80, 100 years ago, it was illegal in certain parts of this country to engage in an interracial relationship.
What?
Yeah. Up until recently, and when I say recently, within the past 20 or 30 years, some states, for example, made interracial marriage illegal.
And I bet you bestiality was legal, I bet. In those same places.
I don't know.
Ridiculous.
I don't know. Right. But that's, that was based upon their belief systems at the time.
Dude, I have this theory that like our genetics changed from like being allowed to like, be experimenting with that bestiality, that like somewhat some of our genetics were influenced from like people being allowed to do that.
Quite possibly. Maybe they were extraterrestrials, as some ancient alien theorists believe, that we are simply hybrids. And we ourselves are now hybrid. How can I say this? Genetically engineering ourselves.
Are you talking about like how they're growing human body parts on animals, or?
Absolutely. Not only that, but there are certain medical experiments occurring right now in which we take the traits of one species and we merge them with the traits of another species to affect a hybrid. This is the stuff of Dr. Moreau. This is the stuff of science fiction, but it's occurring right now. And whether that is right or wrong, I'm not going to sit here and make a value judgment. I'm not going to do it. Just take a step back and look and say, is this what we should be doing? Is this something we should stay away from? Certain species of animals hibernate. For some people, that might be great given their occupation, if we modify that with their genetic alphabet, if you will, their DNA.
I just get like a little triggered because I start to think about people like Peter Thiel, who like publicly mentioned how he was cooperating in younger blood transfusions and kind of like doing stuff like that to kind of enhance our genetics.
Oh yeah, that's always been occurring. That's, we're just a little more sophisticated about it now. But yeah, I can see that happening. There are certain racial groups, for example, in the north of Japan, that have an average life expectancy that's 20 years longer than the rest of the country.
Oh, wow. There's also genetics of people who they're missing like I think it's CRR5 or something like that. They're missing a gene and they can't get HIV because they're missing that genetics.
All right. Now, some people are going to exploit that. Let's take HIV/AIDS. What is it? It's a virus. Now, before we get into this whole discussion about, well, it's government engineered and this and that and all the other stuff. All right. The HIV virus, approximately 0.1% of the population of Europe has a natural immunity to the AIDS virus.
Oh, wow.
If you were a pharmaceutical company and they knocked on your door and said, Trina, we have a proposal for you. According to the blood work we did in your genetic profile, you have a natural immunity to the AIDS virus. We will pay you. Here's a check. It's a blank check. All right, here's a check. Here's a blank check. You can fill in whatever amount of money you want. Just let us use your blood so we can develop the vaccine.
Financial domination, dude. No way.
You're refusing? You're
Are you
refusing
gonna
to
kill
save the
me? You
lives?
gonna kill me and then take
You're
my blood?
refusing to save the lives of people.
Again, manipulation.
You can't do it. You're not going to develop the vaccine. So let a pharmaceutical company. What are you going to do? You're going to buy one of those home chemistry sets? Of course not.
How about the person proposing this to me reads the book Survival of the Wisest before pushing any agenda on modifying genes?
They aren't going to do that. They're just going to say, will you let us use your blood so we can develop a vaccine to combat
And then
AIDS?
we'll say, next, because it's not me, dog. I'm not doing it.
All right, so you're refusing to save hundreds of thousands of lives.
I don't like that you're framing me in this way because I won't give you my blood.
You're refusing. We are making you an offer. Help us and we will help you.
I'm not educated enough of what other implications could come from me making the sacrifice of myself to you. You're telling me all these things, but I'm not trusting that you're going to do what you say you're going to do with my blood.
You're refusing to help save hundreds of thousands of lives.
I'm going to say yes.
Then what makes you any different than a murderer?
Come
Do you
on.
want those people lives? Do you want their lives on your hands? Do you want your hands?
Exactly what they did. This is the worst emotional manipulation. This is like emotional reasoning or something.
Guess what, Trina? Welcome to the real world.
That is so bad. That's like, what do you call it? It's like antagonizing the person. Like, come on, do this, do this. Work. This reminds me of what just happened, right? Everybody has to do this thing, otherwise you're a bad person. It makes me feel gross.
I'm demonstrating. I'm playing the devil's advocate here. I'm showing you, all right, how easily some things can be manipulated. How easily some things can be genetically altered. You know, now there are some people who would go, shoot, yeah, just give me the blank check. I'll fill in the numbers and you can take as much of my blood as you want.
Oh my God. Yeah. Did you know they were paying people to get injections? Like they were literally paying. There are some people who received a check to do what they did.
Yes. There are medical schools right now that are working on an artificial skin. It's done through the funding agent is a cosmetics company out of France. All right. And what they're doing is they're taking skin samples and analyzing them from people from various sexes as well as age groups. How does a person's skin age? Well, yeah, we all know about collagen and things like that. But what I'm saying is, if you can develop an artificial skin by experimenting with other people's skin.
What about the brain and the other organs? Wouldn't they have to also simultaneously keep up with like?
Sure. I mean, why not extend it a step further with artificial organs? With, if you will, man-made organs. Think of the possibilities.
Dude, have you seen this movie called Repo the Genetic Opera by any chance?
No.
It's basically like a comic book where there's this company called GeneCo and they like repossess your organs if you don't make up on your payments, like artificial organs. And like the joke you could say of the movie is like everyone's redesigning their insides. Like it's a fashion statement to get all these surgeries and have like prosthetics.
There you go. I mean, think of the possibilities for an artificial skin, especially for burn victims, for accident victims. Artificial organs. Sure, I'm not just talking, when I say organs, I also mean limbs.
Yeah.
All right, industrial accidents, wars, whatever, diseases. If you lost a limb and you had the opportunity to replace your limb.
Oh my God. I mean,
would you do it? Would you undergo that procedure?
Like, I have a little bit of interest in a person called Ramachandran. Are you familiar with this person?
No.
Really? There's this Dr. Ramachandran, and he did this experiment that's kind of around what's called phantom limb. Like basically, if you lose a limb, like your brain thinks that you still have the limb. Or like one person, he thought his hand was closed like this so much to the point that it hurt. So Ramachandran came up with this idea called the mirror box, where basically like the person could see their other arm like in the mirror, and it would create like a release in the brain, so the person didn't have the pain anymore, and they were able to open their hand. I don't know. And they do this other one like where they fake smashing the person's hand. Like they do like a paintbrush on like their fingertips, and then they replace like an artificial arm or whatever, and then they like hit it with a hammer. And like the person's brain like still has the same stimulus or response as if they hurt, even though it was the artificial limb, whatever that had received it. So I got mixed feelings about the idea of artificial limbs, especially like when we're talking about like faith and religion and belief systems of like, you know, God's intention or whatever, or like the meaning behind those things. I don't know, dude.
I'm not talking about artificial limbs. I'm talking about you being genetically modified to where you can grow your limb back.
Like a lizard.
Yeah.
Would you
undergo genetic modification to do that? Once you turn 18, we're going to, okay, we'll give you this injection, and, you know, you may or may not need it. But if you were to ever lose a limb, an arm, a leg, whatever.
Dude, there are certain corporations, I can't, maybe it's Moderna, but they call this like I forgot what their advertisement is. It's like the genes of the future or something like that. So like basically by getting their program, their software, the software of the future or something like that. The software genetics, like they have a really interesting slogan or whatever, that's their like motto. And from my understanding, like that's what they're doing. Like once you get one or whatever, one uploaded their genes, like they'll be able to modify and to do so many different other things just by having the original software within your body. That exactly, they could remove the gene to have HIV. They can do so many different things, and it's actually known that we can modify genes using light rays now. Like you don't even need to have an injection; you can just use light rays or bioluminescence, like those Lucifer rays and stuff. It is pretty fascinating, but for me, it's also terrifying. So it's confusing. Like, do I want to know all this information, or like, would it be better to like be like willfully ignorant? You know, like sometimes it's like, what can I do with this information? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just gonna plague myself with, like, you could say mental masturbation, like constantly ruminating ideas and asking questions that can never be officially answered, kind of thing, you know?
Right. Yeah. You know, this is all part of technology. And how does our belief system relate to this type of technology? Are we going to accept it? Are we going to embrace it? Are we just going to accept or embrace part of it?
I feel like massively it's being accepted, dude. Like people like it. They like it. They want it. And it's been modified to make people want it. Like, I think it's Sam Harris or Tristan Harris, if not both of them, kind of talk about like the dopamine and the constant refreshing of the feed and how it like modifies the brain and causes depression and anxiety from like hyper use of artificial intelligence. You know, it's not really normal for us to be like on computers and sitting down all the time. In fact, we actually know it's really bad, you could say, for our butt. You know what I mean? Like literally hemorrhoids and things like that will form from sitting long. Our body is not meant to be sitting down all the time. Like, you know, we're supposed to be like out in the jungle kind of thing, like gathering and hunting and working together as a community. So I feel like we're so far off of our natural expression that no wonder why people are having the meaning crisis and going through the things that John Vervaeke is discussing. You know what I mean? Like, duh, like we're so out of touch with ourselves. And it almost feels like it's on purpose, as if it's been planned for like hundreds and hundreds of years, you know, like Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and these concepts of modifying society into an organized structure of human settlement zones and just like ways that they want to modify the world. Dude.
You can choose to either accept that or reject it. Now, am I suggesting we all become Amish? In which, you know, we reject all the mechanical devices, all the electricity, and plow our fields with horses and, you know, buggies and things, you know,
like. It's actually not even possible. I don't know if you've seen this, but like in a lot of places in the country now, you can't even park without having a cell phone to pay for parking. Like you have to text a number now. Like that's the way things are. Like they don't have the machines anymore. There's not pay phones anymore. You know what I mean?
No. You know, and again, you know, how simple do you want to live your life? You can always go and live in a convent, a cloistered convent.
I wouldn't mind trying the Vipassana.
You know, but you know, some people wouldn't mind, you know, living the monastic lifestyle.
What's that?
Being a monk, living amongst other monks, taking
Yeah,
a vow
I'd
of
try that.
poverty, chastity, silence.
Brahmacharya. Yes.
You know, and some people don't mind doing that. All right, fine. It's not my place to judge them. If they choose to do that, that's fine. Other people choose to go the other extreme, and they embrace all kinds of technology.
Yeah.
And the rest of us are kind of in the middle somewhere.
Well, also you have to notice like this stuff is pushed on us kind of thing. Like if you tune into any mass media, it's going to mention corporations like Twitter, right? Or Instagram, and how this famous person is on here. You know, like it's kind of hard to be in the world. Like, you know, that technocracy, if you will, is like an agenda within itself, like these ideas and these concepts. And there's a lot of people I know that actually want nothing to do with being on social media because they're aware of the implications. And there's tons of companies that have opened up that, like, you know, they're gathering facial recognition. Even when you go out to the public grocery store and stuff like that, they're collecting data. You know, one way that you can think of when I was little, like I went to the grocery store and I would buy this one type of razor, and somehow the company knew my home address and they sent me a free razor on my birthday. But still, it was like a principle of like showing me, hey, we're being watched. Even though back then when I was little, they didn't have cameras at the self checkout. You know what I mean? Like now that they have. So I don't know. For me, it's a little scary, but it's also like a little exciting. It just seems like that this information technology can be kind of like used for things that just not in agreement with my will. That I like, if I had a conscious awareness of a choice on this device being used on me or against me or things like that, that I might not choose it. Now, on the other hand, if I get to choose that, like, let's say like the language of let's say Mandarin, like, could be uploaded into my brain. Like, I might come into agreement of, yes, I would love to learn how to communicate and speak in Arabic or like things like that, you know what I mean? But if it's not of my actual genuine will, like meaning that I know every term of service kind of thing, then I like want nothing to do with it kind of thing, you know? And that feels like, again, witchcraft or black magic or the dark forces of evil kind of thing, you know, in Star Wars. But you know, but again, I almost feel like I have no say because there are people with billions and billions of dollars or things that are considered to be superiorly valuable in our planet, even though it's like a made up concept that this is what is superiorly valuable. And I kind of like sometimes feel snuffed out, dude. Like, well, what's my place in all of this? And I have no place, like the rat race of a sort. And then it's like very confusing for me, especially like when I was younger. Like, again, what am I going to do about these things? I'm just a little tiny person, and you know, what's really available to me to be done aside from like a kind, moralistic kind of person that makes me feel good to be for other people.
Our school system doesn't teach us how to be good towards other people. Our school system, and when I say our school system, I mean the Western civilization model of education. Yes. Mark Twain once said, never let what?
Someone else raise your kids. I don't know.
No. What? Mark Twain once said, never let your schooling interfere with your education.
Aww.
In other words, our school system of Western civilization in particular fails us in a lot of ways. It doesn't teach us how to be financially independent. It doesn't teach us how to develop our own talents or creativity. It teaches us to be smart enough to do the paperwork and run the machines. That's it. Don't question anything else. Don't exercise any type of creativity. No, don't do that. Because why? Because society doesn't want thinkers. They want workers.
Okay, Rothschild or whoever that quote is from. It's like Rockefeller. I forgot who.
That's a Rockefeller quote.
Okay,
That's
okay.
paraphrasing of a Rockefeller quote.
Yeah.
Rockefeller once said, "I don't want thinkers, I want workers."
Yeah, I remember.
All right, so our schooling system teaches us to what? Be smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork. Don't you dare exercise any type of creativity. Don't you dare exercise any type of initiative, because that will make you socially suspect. That will make you, as they used to say years and years ago, what are you trying to be, some kind of hippie?
Are you familiar with the word democide?
I'm sorry?
Democide. Are you familiar with the word democide?
What is that?
Democide is when the government kills its own people, kind of like in Cambodia. There's like, I had this discussion with someone where it's like a joke, but it's not really a joke because it's true, but maybe that's what makes it kind of somewhat, but it's like they killed the homosexuals, the smart people, and the artists first, like all the free thinkers kind of thing. And then, other people. And I also found it interesting, like, that we're always at war with, like, people who really do worship God, that, like, praying 5 times a day. And, like, I just find that interesting, like, if we're supposed to be, like, in God we trust kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, it just feels like, again, like a sleight of hand trick.
Well, that's part of their religion. The structure of their religion tells them that they are supposed to, pray 5 times a day. Good for them. I'm not going to criticize them. If that gives them a sense of peace of mind, it gives them some type of foundation in their own existence, who am I to make a value judgment? I'm not going to criticize them if they worship 5 times a day, 10 times a day, or if they don't worship at all. It's really none of my business. We all have a free will. All right. What are you going to do with it?
Did you know there's a gene?
Go ahead.
I was just going to be a nerd and mention, like, I found out that there's a gene in the brain called the God gene. And it's basically a gene in your brain that allows you to have belief and faith in a God. And that they have done experiments on how to turn the God gene off. And, like, the scientific journals are, like, kind of say, like, sarcastic or humoristic, like, mentioning, like, how they could, like, make people no longer have religion by modifying the genes in the mind.
Now, for some people, that might be a bad thing, because their faith tells them, all right, gee, I shouldn't hit that person over the head, because in the next life, in this next plane of existence, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to get punished for that. It's just like I walk down the street, gee, I shouldn't hit that person over the head, because I know if I do, I'm going to get 20 years in jail. It's a structure for some
What
of
about
us.
Lex Linus, dude? Just like the law of retribution.
Well, I'm sorry, say that again.
I was like, what about Lex Linus? It's like the law of retribution, like do unto others as you want them to you, like seeing everybody else as another you. So if you are hitting them in the head with the baseball bat, that you're hitting yourself in the head with the baseball bat kind of thing.
There you go. There you go. It would be really nice if everyone in the world practiced the golden rule. Unfortunately, they don't.
Is the golden rule don't hurt other people?
Treat other people as you would want to be treated.
Okay.
All right. That's all. Don't hurt people. Don't take their stuff.
That's your religion.
It's really not complicated. It truly isn't.
Well, there's people right now probably shouting, why not? Why not? Why not? I can. Why not?
If you want to do that, that's your choice. But keep in mind, there are consequences. Other people may not like that. Other people may not like the fact that you stole their car, or that you broke into their house, or you took their TV set, or their stereo, or their phone.
I've had my phone stolen from me in Colombia.
All right. I've never had my phone stolen. I've had it lost. Let's put it that way. But you know, that's essentially what my philosophy has been. Don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. You know, respect other people, in other words.
I'm going to bother you to ask that other question again. Is there anything you think that we could do that could modify society in a way that's coming from more of an altruistic place, or like a betterment of society? Is there any simple little thing that we can do ourselves to like make a big impact?
That's
Besides growing our own food.
What could we do in our own way to make society better? What would you say?
My inner kid says, be kind.
All right, be kind. You know,
but sometimes we can't, like we're hurt, so we like literally can't. So it's like, what else can we do?
Okay, here in Hawaii, we practice aloha. All right, what does that mean? Aloha means kindness. It means love. It means consideration. The other day, you know, I walk with a cane. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I do walk with a cane because I've had a back surgery. All right. All right.
Highlighter.
I walk with a cane, and I was coming out of the supermarket, pushing the wagon, or the wagon is what they call, again, a shopping cart here. Okay, fine.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm, you know, pushing the wagon. I'm unloading the shopping cart. Brought it back, and I'm hobbling around on my cane, and a lady who I didn't know from anyone, an older lady, said, "I see that you're walking. You're having trouble walking. I will pray for you."
Aw.
I don't know this person again from anyone in the world, but it was the fact that hit me. I was so dumbfounded by that. by someone saying, "I see that you're having problems, and I don't speak English very well, but I will pray for you." I said, "Thank you. Mahalo."
What is mahalo?
That's Hawaiian. It means thank you.
Mahalo. ¿Cómo se dice you're welcome? I said, ¿cómo se dice you're welcome? Like, how do you say you're welcome in Hawaii?
I'm still learning that part. You have to help me out with that. So we'll learn it together. All right, we'll learn it together.
Okay.
What does ohana mean?
Family. Family means no one gets left behind or forgotten.
Okay. How about wahine?
Not sure.
Okay. Wahine.
Is that God?
It's a Hawaiian word meaning female, woman, girl. They're all interchangeable.
Can you say the name again?
Wahine.
Wahine?
What's a male? Koa.
Wahino?
Koa. Koa means warrior. Yeah, koa means, it can mean either boy, warrior, or man.
Cool.
It's usually the concept of a warrior. Next time we talk, we'll learn more Hawaiian together. How's that sound?
You have to ask, like in Hawaii itself, are you familiar with Ho'oponopono? Like, is that like really a thing of Hawaii?
What is now? Help me out.
Ho'oponopono?
What about it?
Do you know what that is?
What is it? You help me out. Help our listeners out.
It's a practice that I've come to know of, like saying it to yourself and to your God and your fellows of, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Ho'oponopono.
All right.
So my question is, like, is that actually a thing that's where you're at? Like, have you heard other Hawaiians do that? Because there's a rumor that it's from Hawaii and that it's a Hawaiian practice, but I've never met anyone from Hawaii, so I wanted to like ask you, like, is that actually happening over there?
Yes, to some people it does. It's a way of self-reflecting. It's allowing yourself to be forgiven. I mean, let's take a step back without, you know, how can I say this, pushing any buttons, so to speak. We've all done some things that we regret. We've done some things to people that we regret.
Absolutely.
Sure. But that's, you know, that allows us to forgive ourselves as much as we ask forgiveness of others.
Yeah, the equal energetic exchange.
Right. My phone is almost out.
Okay. I guess I have just one more nerdy question. Like, what do you know about in Hawaii, like people working with flower lace and like those expressions of how they wear the flowers? Like, do you know anything about that? Like, is it considered like a religious practice, or what are the belief systems and things around that?
You mean on one side of the head or the other?
Huh?
You mean on one side of the head or the other for the females?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know anything. Like, if I've never heard of that. Like, please, like, I would love to learn everything. Like, they seem to have like all these, what I would call almost religious practices that involve flowers. Like, they wear the flower lace, like everyone has seen in movies. Like, when you go to Hawaii, when you get off the plane or walk into your hotel, that they, you know, put the flower lay on you. So I was wondering, like, what that means to them, because like I've also seen this like in the practice of Hare Krishnas. Like how like the saints or the swamis, you know, they also are anointed with these flower lace. So I was wondering like the Hawaiian background of that. And yeah, if you could teach, like, I've never heard about that. So anything about flowers, I'd love to hear.
All right, real quick here. All right. One explanation has it that the custom regarding lays was as a form of welcome. It was also a form of, with some Native American tribes, some indigenous tribes in the North America, they actually have what? Feathers, and those feathers signify a person's status. All right, same thing with the lays. Now, real quick here, as far as the flowers in the hair, it all depends who you ask. That's custom really got started years and years ago. Actually, during the war.
Wow.
Yeah, because what happened is, if you wear it on one side of your head or the other, and it all depends who you ask, it signifies if you're married or if you're available. And the reason why they have to do that is because during the war, a lot of these servicemen were getting their butts kicked by the Hawaiian men going, hey, what are you doing making a pass at my girl?
Yeah.
And the next thing they know, they're getting beat up.
Wow.
So there is some type of significance as far as wearing the flowers. Now, I've talked with people all over the island. Well, it's on the right side. No, it's on the left side. No, it's on the no, it's on the right side. The bottom line, though, is, you know, behave yourself and try not to make a pass at strange women or men.
In the in like the Renaissance festivals, they also have something similar with that, with like the foxtails, like if it's on your left or right, like what kind of genders you like and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Tim, it was very, very nice to have you. I'd love to have you back. I always love these conversations. I'd love to continue to talk about ETs. And it's been a pleasure to spend my birthday with you this morning.
Happy birthday. And it was good for me. Was it good for you?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, we'll have to do this again.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yes, sir.
Have a great day. It's your day. It's your special day.
Thank you.
All right. So focus on who? You.
You are me in a different body, having a different experience. To quote my friend Zen.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Ciao.
Bye.